everyone. Okay, so yeah, to start out, a lot of this episode is really building up the thread and planting the idea in our heads now that yes, one of the Vegapunks is in fact a traitor, as we learn that yes, even Stella, the original Vegapunk, has been locked away with the government officials and Marines kept in the inner depths of the lab. And that in itself which in itself practically confirms it. And yeah, let's get this out of the way. Seeing the absolute disgust on Luffy and Zoro's faces when Lucci and Kaka propose a truce, just the very idea makes them squirm. Which, yeah, with Lucci, I can understand there being bad blood for sure, but you'd think Zoro would have a little more open to the idea with Kaku since they're fighting it in rather amicable terms. But yeah, even then, like yeah, with him being CP0, I can still get the hesitation. Um, but either way, taking out the hilarity at the moment, it's another scene that once again I think shows how far Luigi has come since then. Like if this was Luigi from back then, he wouldn't even have even considered given the idea a thought. But the current Luigi, he has analyzed the situation that where to him even even a temporary truce of siding with the Straw Hats, it is the best way to survive and get off the island safely. And in some ways, it does also very subtly show he pretty much does have he has developed a bit of a caring side, and that he does actually care for getting the people he cares about most off of the island too. So yeah. Um, with that said, one little detail I did talk about with this episode, one little detail I did like about this episode is that I didn't, I didn't re- and it's something I didn't really appreciate from the manga is how one of the government officials apologized to Vegapunk for suspecting him, like showing us that, yeah, for as much as they bow to the whims of the government, the government officials are still human and they can still admit fault when they see the truth in front of their eyes. The problem being is that the government itself isn't going to give a shit about whether their own agents live or die, and in that sense, like it's a very nice moment, but it's a moment that kind of just shows you the truth. And unfortunately, yeah, this is turning into another Buster Call situation where they're they're going to be one of the many nameless faces on that island. And yeah, I like the moment where even Vegapunk admits fault that for all his great inventions, all his experiments, everything he's done, he never once thought that someone created from his own DNA would betray him. Like he very much knew that the government would find would he knew that they'd find out, which is that the government would find out, which is the reason he prepared to die in the beginning of the arc. But I don't think he ever considered it would be himself that would betray him in a fashion, and now he is truly faced once, just like with Clover, with his own Ohara. The government knows about what he's doing, and just like with Clover, he's ready to face down that very same fate. And even though it does beat us over the head a little with the imagery, I do like how the anime does a little more visual work at drawing the parallels between Ohara and Egghead, and just how both these scenarios are fated for tragedy. Like, I think the only major issue I had with this segment, honestly, of the episode, is the Ohara recap felt unnecessary and did kind of drag the episode down a little bit. And yeah, honestly, outside of all that, what more can I say? Like, Sentomaru himself, just as a character, just keeps going up and up as a character for me, just from the simple, like, and it's not even from anything big he did in this episode, because he was just kind of off to the side, obviously, but just the simple act of him telling everyone to get off the island and that you can survive if you leave now, like, and then him also admitting that only he and Vegapunk need to die. It really does show that despite wearing the colors of the Navy, he really has been loyal to just Vegapunk from the very beginning. And if the citizens of the island can survive, then maybe just like with Roger and with Hiroluk, Vegapunk's legacy won't completely die out. Like if they survive, then in some form or fashion, his legacy does live on. And then maybe Vegapunk. With that said, I do want to make one final note about the pacing, because going along with the unnecessary Ohata recap, the pacing of this episode is kind of weird in the sense where I'm not going to say it didn't go anywhere, because we did make progress, and this episode did adapt quite a bit of the manga, but it's also giving me a weird perspective of just how slow a lot of this setup was in the manga. Like, it is all going to pay off in a big way, but the journey to get there is a lot slower than I remember it being. Because just as a reminder, Toei has stopped adding like anime only segments and anime only scenes. So to basically the adaptation of One Piece. So aside from a few reused flashbacks, this is the manga adapted in its purest form, and it's one of those things where I think this method Toei has gone with is starting to show both its cracks and its advantages for both better and worse. But although luckily I will also say this is also, I think, this episode is kind of also the last big hurdle of this arc before shit really starts hitting the fan, as it were. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. From on Twitter and on this Crunchyroll, be sure to notification bell, the subscribe button, and just share the video around, guys. Dark Knight signing off. Later, everyone.